Don't chase love. That sounds counterintuitive, right? Especially in a world where everything is about the pursuit, chasing success, chasing dreams, chasing relationships. But the moment we start chasing love, we've already lost something, our center. The truth is, love isn't something to chase. Because when you chase something, it means it's running away from you. And the more you run after it, the more you're signaling that you're not enough on your own, that you're missing something. That mindset creates desperation, not connection. You don't need to be completed by someone else. You're not a half waiting for a half. You are already whole. And when you operate from that place of wholeness, of self-respect, of inner peace, you don't chase love, you attract it. People are drawn to those who are secure in who they are, who live with clarity and purpose. That's the quiet confidence that pulls the right kind of people into your life without force. So instead of running after love, focus on becoming someone you're proud of. Build a life that reflects your values. Fill your days with meaning, your passions, your purpose. Love isn't the goal, it's a result. It's what happens when two people who are already growing, already living with intention, find alignment. You don't need to become more likable, you need to become more you. Because authenticity is magnetic. When you're authentic, you filter out the noise. The people who aren't meant for you, they'll fall away. And the ones who see you, the ones who value the real you, they'll show up and stay. Before you look for the right person, be the right person. Not perfect, just honest, kind, grounded. Know what you value and what matters. When you know your values, your boundaries, your non-negotiables, love doesn't have to be hunted down. It becomes something you naturally recognize and are recognized by. Attention is easy to get. We live in a world of likes, swipes, and surface level validation, but attention isn't connection. And what you really want, what we all want, is to be seen, to be understood, to be loved for who we are. That doesn't come from chasing. It comes from being, from showing up consistently, vulnerably, and with intention. Stop asking who will love you. Start asking, how can I build a life I love? Because when your life is rich with meaning, when your world is full of joy, peace, and purpose, love becomes a beautiful addition, not a desperate need. Don't chase sparks. Build fires. Sparks fade, fires are nurtured. They take patience, effort, and commitment. That's what lasting love is made of. And that's not something you chase, it's something you build together. So the next time you feel like running after love, pause, turn inward, do the work, grow, heal, align, because when you stop chasing and start becoming, love will find you without you ever having to run. The idea that someone else will complete us is one of the most common and misleading beliefs we carry into relationships. It's been romanticized in movies, stories, and even music. The notion that we're only half of something until we find the one. But this thinking creates a dangerous dynamic. When we believe we are incomplete, we begin to look for someone to fill our gaps, to fix what we think is broken in us, or to rescue us from our loneliness, our fears, or our insecurities. That's not love. That's dependency dressed up as romance. When you enter a relationship as a half, you bring neediness, not wholeness. And neediness has a way of driving healthy people away and attracting people who thrive on imbalance. The more you believe you need someone to make you feel whole, the more likely you are to compromise on your values, overlook red flags, and settle for less than you deserve. You start accepting crumbs, because you've convinced yourself that it's better than being alone. But being alone is never the problem. Being disconnected from yourself is. Being whole means you've taken the time to understand yourself. It means you've done the work to know who you are, what you want, what your values are, and where your boundaries lie. It means you've faced your own fears, addressed your own wounds, and found peace in your own presence. You're not perfect, no one is, but you've reached the place where you don't need someone else to validate your worth. You know who you are, and you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone to grow with. Love that's born out of wholeness is powerful. It's not built on fear or insecurity. It's built on choice. You're not with someone because you're afraid to be alone. You're with them because they inspire you, challenge you, and align with who you are. You're not clinging, you're connecting. There's freedom in that kind of love. Space respect, mutual growth. That's the kind of relationship that has depth because it's rooted in two strong individuals choosing each other, not needing each other. When you're whole, you bring your full self to the table, you communicate clearly. You're not afraid of being honest because you're not afraid of losing someone who isn't meant for you. You don't play games. You don't shrink yourself. You show up fully and you allow the other person to do the same. That creates a foundation of trust, and trust isn't built on constant reassurance. It's built on consistency, honesty, and mutual respect. The process of becoming whole doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes reflection. It takes the willingness to sit with your own discomfort, to question old stories you've told yourself, and to heal from past experiences. But every step you take toward wholeness makes you stronger, clearer, and more grounded. You begin to recognize your own value. And when you truly see your own worth, you stop settling for relationships that don't honor it. Being whole is not about being self-sufficient to the point of isolation. It's about being secure enough in yourself that you can love freely without fear. It's about entering relationships as equals, not saviors or victims. And when two whole people come together, the relationship becomes a space for growth, creativity, and shared purpose, not a crutch for emotional survival. So don't wait for someone else to complete you. Complete yourself. Build a life that reflects your values and brings you joy. Fall in love with your own journey, because when you start with being whole, you don't just find love, you attract the kind of love that was meant for the person you've become. There's something deeply magnetic about a person who is unapologetically themselves. In a world where so many people are trying to fit in, trying to impress, trying to be liked, authenticity stands out. It cuts through the noise. And when it comes to love, authenticity isn't just attractive, it's essential. You can only build real connection when you show up as the real you. But being authentic can be uncomfortable, especially if you spent years learning to present a version of yourself that's more acceptable, more likable, more dateable. At some level, maybe you were taught, consciously or not, that love is something you earn by being agreeable or attractive or successful. So you adjusted. You put on a mask. You became who you thought people wanted you to be. But here's the thing. Whatever you gain while pretending isn't truly yours. It's built on performance, not connection. And that kind of love is fragile. True connection starts when you stop performing and start being. When you're honest about your thoughts, your values, your quirks, your dreams, even your fears. That's when the right people begin to recognize you, not just see you, but recognize you. That's what makes authenticity powerful. It acts like a signal. It filters out the ones who aren't aligned with who you truly are, and it draws in those who are. This doesn't mean you have to overshare or review your deepest wounds on the first date. Authenticity isn't about shock value or emotional dumping. It's about alignment. It's about acting and speaking in ways that are consistent with your inner world. It's about knowing your truth and living by it, even when it's inconvenient, even when it means someone might walk away. Because if someone walks away from your truth, they were never meant for you in the first place. So many relationships fail because they're built on versions of people that don't actually exist. Two people fall for the masks, the highlights, the curated personalities. But over time, those masks slip. And when the truth comes out, when the real person begins to show, it creates confusion, disappointment, and sometimes even resentment. That's why starting with authenticity is so critical. It creates a foundation of trust and transparency right from the beginning. There's also an inner peace that comes with living authentically. You're no longer wasting energy managing a false image or constantly wondering, am I enough? You already know the answer. You're not trying to convince anyone of your worth. You're just being. That kind of confidence is quiet, but incredibly powerful. People feel it. And the right person will be drawn not to your perfection, but to your presence, your consistency, your honesty. When you're authentic, you're not afraid to express your boundaries. You're clear about what matters to you. You're okay with saying no. You stop chasing validation and start creating space for mutual respect. And ironically, when you stop trying to be liked by everyone, you become more lovable to the right ones. Why? Because authenticity fosters safety. When you're real, others feel safe being real around you too. That's how vulnerability is born. That's how intimacy grows. The best relationships are not about impressing each other. They're about knowing each other, seeing each other, supporting each other through the highs and lows without having to put on a show. And none of that is possible without authenticity. So let go of the need to chase love through performance. Let go of the pressure to be perfect. Love isn't about finding someone who checks all the boxes. It's about finding someone who feels like home to your truest self. And that begins with the courage to be you. The more you show up as yourself, the more you'll attract people who genuinely resonate with who you are. And that kind of love, that's the kind worth waiting for. Before you search for someone to love, ask yourself one powerful question. Do I love the life I'm living? Because the truth is, the quality of your relationships will always reflect the quality of the life you've built for yourself. Too many people believe that once they find the right person, everything else will fall into place. But waiting for love to bring meaning to your life puts an unfair burden on the relationship and sets you up for disappointment. Love isn't supposed to be your escape from an unfulfilling life. It should be an addition to the joy, purpose, and wholeness you've already created. When you build a life that excites you, that challenges you, that reflects your values and passions, you show up in relationships with confidence and clarity. You're not looking for someone to save you. You're looking for someone to grow with. Think about it. If you spend your days bored, disconnected, or unhappy, what kind of energy are you bringing into a relationship? If your world feels empty, it's tempting to make someone else your everything, but love can't thrive under pressure. It needs space, it needs breathing room. It can't be the thing that fills every gap. You have to do that yourself first. I think building a life you love doesn't mean everything has to be perfect. It just means you're living intentionally. You're doing things that light you up. You're investing in your growth, your health, your creativity. You're forming strong friendships, pursuing interests that matter to you, and making decisions that reflect who you are. When you do this, you radiate a kind of groundedness that's incredibly attractive. Not just to others, but to yourself. You stop settling. You stop chasing people who don't see your value. You become less reactive and more selective. Why? Because your life is already full. You're no longer desperate for someone to add excitement or meaning. You've already got that. And when someone does come along, you're able to experience love from a place of abundance, not lack. It also creates space for real compatibility. When you're clear about the life you want, you naturally gravitate toward people who share your rhythm. You're not pulled in by surface level attraction alone. You're paying attention to values, to vision, to how someone fits into the life you're already building. That kind of alignment creates longevity, it creates trust. Sometimes people avoid building a fulfilling life because they think it makes them too independent or that they won't have time for a relationship, but the opposite is true. A full life doesn't crowd out love. It creates the best environment for it. When both people have their own sense of purpose, their own passions, and their own path, the relationship becomes a place of mutual support, not codependent. It's okay to want love. It's okay to desire connection. But don't put your life on hold while you wait for it. Don't press pause on your dreams, your passions, or your growth. Because the moment you start building a life you truly love, something shifts. You stop chasing love and start attracting it. People can feel when someone is fulfilled. There's a lightness to them, a peace, a quiet strength. And the person who's right for you won't be threatened by your independence. They'll be inspired by it. They'll want to add to your joy, not replace it. So build the life, travel, create, learn, heal, make mistakes and try again. Become the kind of person you'd be excited to meet. And when love finds you, and it will, you will be ready. Not because you were waiting to be rescued, but because you were already living. Before you invite someone into your life in a deep and meaningful way, you have to know what truly matters to you. Not just what you think you should want, not what your friends say they want, and certainly not what social media tells you to desire. What you value at your core is the compass that should guide every decision you make in love and relationships. Without that clarity, you end up drifting. You compromise too much, you ignore red flags, and you try to mold yourself into someone else's version of enough. The mistake so many people make is looking for a partner before they've taken the time to understand themselves. They're hoping that the right relationship will bring clarity, but the opposite is true. Clarity brings the right relationship. When you don't know what you value, it's easy to get swept up in chemistry, attraction, or charm. But those things, while important, aren't the foundation of something lasting. Values are. Values are the non-negotiables. They're the deep drivers of your choices, your beliefs, your priorities. They're not always obvious, and sometimes they're inherited from the world around us instead of consciously chosen. And that's why taking time to reflect on them is so important. Do you value honesty over harmony? Do you prioritize ambition or balance? Is freedom more important to you than structure? What kind of life are you trying to build, and who do you need beside you to build it? These aren't just abstract questions, they're practical tools for making better decisions in love. When you know what you value, you're more likely to choose someone who aligns with your life vision, not just your current emotional needs. You're less likely to settle for relationships that are convenient but shallow. You start to look past the surface and ask, does this person share the values that matter most to me? Not the same hobbies, not the same personality traits, the same values. That's what builds depth and resilience in relationships. When two people share core values, they can weather the storms of life together. They might disagree on details, but their foundation is solid. But when values are misaligned, even the strongest chemistry can turn into conflict. You might love someone deeply, but if they don't value family the way you do, or if they don't believe in open communication, or if they treat integrity as optional, you'll feel an ache that love alone can't fix. Knowing your values also helps you create healthy boundaries. You stop tolerating behavior that crosses your lines, not because you're cold or rigid, but because you respect yourself enough to walk away from what isn't aligned. And that self-respect becomes a filter. The right people will be drawn to it. The wrong ones will fall away. That's not rejection, it's clarity doing its job. You deserve a relationship that's not just exciting, but meaningful. One that challenges you to grow, but also supports who you already are. That only happens when you start from a place of self-awareness. And the beautiful part, when you understand what you value, you stop needing someone else to define your worth. You've already claimed it. You're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone who complements what you've already built within yourself. So before you go looking for love, look inward. Ask the hard questions. Get to know your values like you would a best friend. Because when you're clear on what you stand for, love becomes less about luck and more about alignment. And in that alignment, you don't just find someone to love. You find someone who loves the real you because you were brave enough to show them who that is. In today's world, it's easier than ever to get attention. A perfectly edited photo, a clever caption, a few well-timed messages. It doesn't take much. But attention isn't the same as connection. One is instant, the other takes time. One is superficial, the other runs deep. And when it comes to love, the difference between the two is everything. Too many people are chasing attention, mistaking it for intimacy. They think that being noticed means being valued, that being desired means being loved. But real connection doesn't come from how many people look at you, it comes from how deeply one person sees you. Attention says, you're interesting for now. Connection says, I want to understand who you truly are. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be seen or appreciated, that's human. But when you make attention your goal, you start to change who you are to keep it. You start performing. You hide your flaws, exaggerate your strengths, say what you think the other person wants to hear. And it might work for a while. You might get the text back, you might get the date, you might feel that little ego boost. But eventually you'll notice something's missing. Because attention doesn't satisfy your need to be known. It only feeds your need to be noticed. Connection, on the other hand, is about honesty. It's about being vulnerable. It's about two people meeting in the middle without masks and saying, this is who I am. Can we build something real together? That kind of interaction doesn't always come quickly. It doesn't always look flashy, but it's the kind that creates depth. The kind that lasts. To build real connection, you have to be willing to slow down. You have to be willing to let go of the constant pursuit of instant validation. You have to risk being seen for who you actually are, not the polished version, not the highlight reel. Because connection doesn't happen through performance. It happens through presence, through listening, through curiosity, through shared values and real conversations. It also requires discernment. Not everyone who gives you attention is capable of giving you connection. Some people are attracted to your energy, your look, your status, but not your soul. And if you're not grounded in your self-worth, it's easy to mistake their excitement for something meaningful. But connection reveals itself in consistency, in the quiet moments, in how someone shows up when things aren't convenient. Anyone can say the right thing once. Real connection is shown over time. When you stop chasing attention, you create space for connection to grow. You're no longer trying to impress, you're trying to understand. You ask better questions, you listen more, you notice the little things. And you choose people not based on how much they validate you in the moment, but how deeply they make you feel safe, seen, and supported. There's a big difference between someone who wants to be with you and someone who just wants to win you. The former is about connection, the latter is about ego. And when you know your worth, you stop entertaining people who are just looking for attention themselves. You start focusing on quality over quantity. You become more interested in shared purpose than shallow praise. The irony is, the less you try to get attention, the more magnetic you become. There's something powerful about someone who is centered, who isn't desperate to be seen, who radiates calm self-assurance. That kind of energy doesn't shout. It speaks softly and clearly, and it draws in the right people effortlessly. So don't measure your worth by who notices you. Measure it by who truly connects with you. Because attention fades, but connection, that's what love is built on. That's where the real magic lives. We're often told that love is something we stumble upon, as if it's lying out there, waiting for us like a hidden treasure. This idea sounds romantic, but it's also misleading. Love isn't just something you find, it's something you build. Real love doesn't appear out of thin air and magically stay perfect. It grows, evolves, and deepens over time, if you're willing to show up and do the work. The truth is, anyone can fall in love. That part is easy. The real challenge is staying in love, growing in love, and building something meaningful with another person. That takes patience. That takes commitment. That takes two people choosing each other over and over again, even when it's not easy, even when it's not exciting, even when it requires effort and vulnerability. We tend to chase the feeling of love, those early sparks and butterflies that make everything feel effortless, but feelings fade, chemistry cools, and if that's all your relationship is built on, it won't last. Love that lasts isn't based on fleeting emotion. It's grounded in intention, in choices, in shared values and mutual respect. You don't find a great relationship, you create it. You create it through honest conversations, through showing up on the hard days, through choosing growth instead of avoidance. It's built when you learn how to listen without defensiveness, how to support each other's dreams, and how to navigate differences with maturity and compassion. That kind of love doesn't just happen. It's built, brick by brick, over time. Building love also means taking responsibility for your role in it. It means recognizing that you bring your own patterns, fears, and expectations into the relationship, and that if you don't deal with them, they'll eventually get in the way. You can't build something strong if you're still holding on to unresolved pain or unrealistic fantasies. Love asks us to grow up emotionally, to communicate clearly, to take ownership not just when things go wrong, but when things go right. A lot of people walk away from relationships because they think if it was the right person, it wouldn't be this hard. But that belief ignores the reality that every relationship requires work. Not work that drains you or makes you feel small, but work that challenges you to be better. The right person won't eliminate the effort. They'll be willing to share it. They'll want to build something just as real as you do. And when both people are committed to the process, the bond that forms is unshakable. You also have to realize that love isn't built overnight. It doesn't follow a timeline. There will be seasons of joy, but also seasons of struggle. What matters is how you show up in both. Do you turn toward your partner or away? Do you communicate your needs or expect them to read your mind? Do you prioritize the relationship or do you let life get in the way? The answers to those questions don't come from chance. They come from conscious effort. So stop waiting for love to find you. Start asking yourself who you want to build love with. Choose someone who values growth, who isn't afraid of honesty, who wants to build a future, not just chase a feeling. And be willing to do the same in return. Because the most fulfilling love stories aren't the ones where everything falls into place effortlessly. They're the ones where two people choose to keep building even when it's hard. They stay curious about each other. They keep investing. They keep showing up. Love isn't a destination, it's a construction site. And the more you commit to building something real, the less you'll be satisfied with anything fake.